Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. And if you're familiar with this channel, then you already know that aside from doing this YouTube channel and having 2 jobs and all the other crazy stuff that I do, I'm also a writer. I've got over 30 books on Amazon. Check them out if you please. But so when I find articles such as this one, it piques my interest. It's called The 7 Writing Apps I Use to Start and Finish My Book. 7. This person, Kevin Nguyen. It looks like it's from Vietnam. I don't know who this dude is, but this was published at The Verge. Can you ever use too much software? Yes, but hear me out first. So this was published April 5th, 2025, fairly new. And I gotta tell ya, I'm not familiar with a lot of the stuff that he talks about in this article. I did previously read it, so if there's anything that I can skip over and save you time, I will. But let's figure out who Kevin is. And yes, he is Asian. Is a features editor at The Verge, where he publishes award-winning stories about labor, business, and policing. Previously, he was a senior editor at GQ. Of course he was. There's a famous 2-decade-old Paris Review interview with Haruki Murakami in which he, one of the world's most celebrated novelists, details his daily routine. He wakes up at 4 a.m., works for 5 hours, goes for a run, reads, goes to bed. We should all be so lucky. And then he repeats it all over again. The rigor and repetition are the point. I am not Haruki Murakami. Dude, nobody... there's like, how many billions of Asian people? Like, no, we don't think you all look the same, okay? In addition to my work at The Verge, I write novels. My second one is out this week. There's a link. I cannot click on it because there's no internet here where I'm currently at. And while I admire Murakami's commitment to an immovable schedule, I've found that I produce my best work when I'm consistently rethinking routines, processes, and mostly how I'm writing. Okay. In the modern age, that means what software I'm using. Dude, get away from software, I swear to God. What I am about to describe will be a nightmare for anyone who likes all of their tools to work harmoniously. Oh, all of these apps are disconnected and do not interoperate with each other in many ways. Then what the hell are you doing? And many of these things they do are redundant and overlap. I suppose this process is quite the opposite of frictionless. It sounds like you're just making more work for yourself than you need. But that's precisely the point. Masochist. He's a... Ladies, if you enjoy beating the shit out of your man, this is the dude for you. I'm not sure I believe that ambitious, creative work is born from a perfectly efficient workflow. It does help. This is instead a journey of moving the work through different pieces of software, depending on what it needed or how I needed to interface with it. Just as being in different locations can inspire or challenge new ideas, moving work through different writing environments can be that shift for your text. What I'm about to detail is less about the specific pieces of software and more how one might change their approach depending on what the work needs. It needs you to stop fucking around and just sit down, shut up, and type. That's what it needs. At least that's how it is for me. Maybe it might be for you too. He's got like one good piece of information in here. That's about it. Idea collection. When I start writing a book, I need to quite literally collect my thoughts. It's the fun part. When the project is all potential, before the realities of how painful it will be to actually make it have set in. I'll find inspiration in things I'm reading, watching, listening to. Ideas will come to me while I'm riding the subway, when I can't sleep at night, and even sometimes in the middle of meetings. He's doing this during sex, I guarantee it. Anyone has specific uses for their notes apps. It's called a notebook. It's, a little thing that fits in your pocket and you can take it out and jot shit down. And yeah, it's called a notebook. Everyone has specific uses for their notes apps, and there are so many available. The slightly counterintuitive, deranged thing is that I use two different ones. Each serves a different purpose. I use Bear, B-E-A-R, Bear, for structured ideas like character sketches or thematic concepts. And I make use of the app's lightweight tagging system to stay organized. Lightweight tagging system? For entirely loose thoughts, I usually paste things into notes and don't worry about formatting, context, whatever. I just know it is saved somewhere. Seriously, a notebook goes like right in your pocket, like somewhere there. Actually, I have a very adverse reaction to how notes looks, but it's the one where my partner prefers to share grocery list and streaming passwords, so I'm stuck with it. My partner prefers. I could make some assumptions there, but I have a feeling this is just, he's the lady in the relationship. The important thing here is that these apps are especially good for tailored to any purpose. I just have a different environment to work on my phone depending on the type of idea I need to save. One I use when I'm being thoughtful, the other when I need to get something down quickly in the moments when I need to save something super fast. I won't even use a notes app at all. I'll just text myself. Okay. This is a pen. This is paper. You can put this down, fold it up, and put it in your pocket for later. Good God. Nothing about Bear or notes interact with each other, and eventually I will have to move any useful text out of them. Both of them sync quite nicely to desktop apps, so copying and pasting stuff to a new place is a fairly painless, if not tedious, process. This is, for me, the value of notes apps, combining scraps of ideas so that you can turn them into something useful later. Oh, we haven't even gotten to anything that I actually use yet as a writer. Drafting. Let's see what this person uses for drafting. So that's 2 apps right there out of 7. I don't stop taking notes when I'm writing. In fact, that only increases as the book starts to take shape and really live in my brain. But the place I spend the most time focused on deliberate and actual writing is in IA Writer, my minimal, zero frills word processor of choice. I have never heard of this. This was the software I opened when I sat down to do the exhausting work of novel writing. Why? I've tried a handful of other apps, but this is the one I keep returning to, even though it costs $50 for mobile and another $50 if you want the desktop version. So $150 for 2 things. Looking back, this is pretty ludicrous amount of money to spend just because I like the app's default typeface. Oh my God, and I know what he uses later, and it has the same feature. Though, when you're going to spend over 100 hours looking at something, $100 seems less egregious. There's a sea of free apps that accomplish the very basic task of letting you type. So find the one that makes you feel the most comfortable. The first draft is the hardest part, so anything you can do to ease the process is worth it. Then he talks about how he drafts almost entirely on an iPad. Do you really hate yourself that much? Get a laptop, get a desktop. Something with a keyboard, what are you doing? Now, I know some writers that work from start to finish. I'm a little more chaotic in that I write in absolutely no order. I write in absolutely no order. Okay, this becomes a problem later since the most important part of a narrative is structure. So at a certain point, when I've had enough words written, usually around 60,000 words, I move things into several different Google Docs. Why would you move it to Google Docs? So I could start to separate out scenes and chapters. If a writer is good for getting words on the page, Docs is where I finish and begin to revise a book. This is where it becomes a legible story. Okay, so we've got notes on AI tools. I'm skipping that because no, that's not writing. Stop, don't use AI tools. Seriously, it's no longer yours, okay? You can't claim something that somebody else wrote for you, even if it's a program and you told it to, okay? Doesn't work like that. Revising. This is where things got a little weird. Google Docs has a hard time with writing that goes over a certain length. That threshold I found is around 15,000 words. Why are you transferring it into Google Docs? That doesn't make any sense, especially with where we're going. So my book was separated in 2 large sections, and I created an index linked to all the chapters, also as a Google Doc. By this point, I'm off the iPad and back to a laptop. My browser has tabs open for each of the 7 separate docs that comprise my draft. Where does he go from here? Yes, I'm skipping stuff. So I installed Scrivener. Thank God. This is what I primarily use along with Microsoft Word. Scrivener, which has the screen that he talked about that minimizes the typing. It looks like just paper moving up and you're constantly in the middle of the screen, and it's almost like typing on a typewriter, but you're on a computer with no distractions, no pop-ups. There's no pop-ups allowed when you're in that feature on Scrivener. It also has all the files where you can move around different things that you wrote into different orders, and it immediately shifts that. Everything that he has described so far is available in Scrivener. There was no need for him to move anything around anywhere. He could all have done all of it in one app. Okay, so one of the few apps I know that is actually built with book writing in mind. What does it say? That the majority of the creative writing we do is done in software designed for the workplace. You did that to yourself, dude. If the idea of software in the past decade has been ease, Scrivener leans the other direction by designing something for power users. It's fairly easy to use. I am not a tech-savvy guy, and I can use Scrivener fairly well. Scrivener leans, let's see here. It's software that you get more out of the more effort you put into it, setting it up, making it your own, and wrangling its eccentricities until the quirks feel like second nature. Even the way Scrivener looks, the use of multiple panels, rigid organization structures, and high information density feels like Windows software from the late 90s, early aughts. Have you learned how to use Scrivener? Are you serious? This doesn't make any sense. He's not This is the description of somebody who's just irritated that it has like more than 2 features on the app. That's the issue he's having with it. He needs to watch some YouTube videos on how to properly use Scrivener so he's not dinking around with all this other shit. I confess, I only did light customization. You are the problem. The first thing I did was switch all of the UI elements into a better typeface. Oh my God. The typeface is what... Even then, it was quite worthwhile to use the app to reorganize chapters. No shit, Sherlock. Why are you using Google Docs? With the customized metadata field, I was able to create labels to easily sort chapters by characters' points of view and track which sections needed revisions. Scrivener also lets you visualize your project, and seeing everything laid out visually like index cards on a corkboard is extremely helpful when you're trying to weave together 5 plot lines. It really helped me nail down the book sequence and structure. Then what the hell were you just complaining about? That is the purpose of the whole damn program. The thing is, I actually hate writing in Scrivener. So I moved everything back to Google Docs to finish. You twat! Oh my God! He's the guy at the bar that is sitting next to you and you overhear the conversation. You just want to punch him in the back of the head. That is this dude. Now we go into the other app that even I use, okay? As much as I find Microsoft Word quite clumsy, especially on a Mac, I should have known. iPad, of course he uses a Mac. It became necessary to eventually move a full manuscript there. Word is the industry standard for the publishing industry. And I wasn't about to ask my editor to accommodate my desire for a less ugly word processor. It also seems like no matter how long Google tries to solve its interoperability with Word's tracks changes, crucial things always end up getting lost in translation. Stop moving shit around. After a couple rounds with my editor, yeah, he's probably pissed at you. We finally felt like the manuscript was good to go for production. First, it went to the copy editor. This started in Word, but then the book's interior was laid out, and I had to look at proofs in Adobe Acrobat. Okay, that's standard, which has its own gangly commenting system, which I endured because all authors are brave. No, some are just flat out fucking whiny little bitches. Okay? Look at Stephen King. Dude can't get off of Twitter long enough to actually produce something that people want to read. Pre-publication. We're almost done. We're almost done with this guy, okay? A lot of time passes while a book is in production and you have to have meetings about actually selling the book. This is my least favorite part of the publishing process since I'm forced to think about publicity and marketing, and I'm not sure anyone chooses writing fiction because their desire is to please a market. Oh, please, you got this far, you whiny little asshole. Anyway, one last app that I've been using at David Pierce's recommendation is Craft 3. And no, I've never heard of it. The previous versions of Craft, which I've never used, were full-featured productivity apps. This third iteration pivots to a writer's environment first with lots of productivity bells and whistle sounds. Wait, and whistles second. Productivity bells and whistles second. Okay, Scrivener has the writing environment first feature. You open it, and then you can just block out everything where you just have a screen that you type on. This has been the ideal of This has been the ideal to manage all of my publication commitments, which involve writing, marketing, copy, planning events, and scheduling interviews with craft. I've had a pretty easy time staying on top of deadlines. I found it less fidgety than similar tools like Notion. Never heard of Notion. So if you've been keeping track, the journey starts like this. Yeah, he doesn't even mention this Craft 3. It's almost like, hey, can you mention this app that I'm kind of getting paid for? And he goes on some more about how great this whole process is. This is a freaking nightmare. What the hell, Kevin Nguyen? Really? What a pain in the ass. So anyways, and of course, he's got like a typewriter at the top of the article, because why wouldn't you have the simplest form of how to write a book sitting right on top, which I think is freaking hilarious, by the way. Yeah, you've got this other option here available for like 50 bucks or less at your local antique shop. All you do is insert paper and buy new ribbon for the most part, unless there's something that needs fixing or tinkering with. But other than that, it's just ding. But no, 7 apps. Well, what do you think? Do you think you really need 7 apps in order to write a book? Sorry, I jot down ideas onto paper. I bring the paper home. I collect it. I later piece things together. And then I start organizing shit on Scrivener, where I do the majority of my writing. Then the final product from Scrivener gets compiled into a Word format file, docx, where I do the majority of editing, layout, because you need a Google Doc or a Word docx document file in order to transfer to everything else you need to do in order to have a publishable book online. 2 apps, 2, and a notepad. And I'm not talking about an electronic notepad. I'm talking about like pieces of paper that are stuck together that you carry. Stop making things harder for yourself. Good God, people. Keep on typing.